how we can overcome these barriers through the educational responses. And when we took this into consideration when we developed our approach towards training. And so you can see that the first one, the set of values that we need to develop in a very simplistic form. It could be ecocentric or anthropocentric. Yes, so we are putting nature in the center of our values, or we are putting the human being in the center of our values. And this weak anthropocentrism is suggesting that we need to find the balance. So we should, of course, put attention towards the development of humanity and societies, but we also need to make sure that we are not damaging the environment. And then that we need to use the real-life examples, so real-life case studies, so the students can see what's going on in industry if they didn't have the experience in the industry before their studies. Then we need to equip them with skills, so they would be able to behave in the right way at their workplace, and also develop habits or practices. So we need to allow them to practice what they learned, yes, because otherwise it would be difficult for them to apply when they start working. And then these external factors that relates to indicators, training program for teachers, etc. So today, our colleague from ILO was talking about greening Tvet and projects that they piloted in the region. And at the UNESCO meeting, we had a lot of discussions about the typology of green skills. What does it mean? Because currently they're not like unified view, what is it, and different countries and different agencies interpret it in different ways. So what we were trying to do in our work, we are focusing on developing generic green skills, because this is what everyone should have, and we should include it in different type of courses that we have in our institutions. So you can see that at the bottom we have our values and attitudes, and then we have these generic green skills, and then we have the skills that are topping up. So we include greener technologies in our practices, so we need some additional skills to be able to use these technologies, so we are training for that. Usually this is happening at the workplace. When this new piece of technology is coming, training is usually coming together. And then at the top we have these specific skills for new green industries. And the list of these green industries are different in different countries. For example, 5 years in Sri Lanka, there was no waste management type of training. So for them, that was this specific green skills, yes. In India, when they decided to put this solar everywhere and start developing programs in that occupation, so for them, that was specific green skills. But the generic green skills, they're very close to the soft skills that all employers are required, but within the context of environment, within the context of greening economies. And we developed the taxonomy of generic green skills. And when we're developing training programs and resources, we refer to these skills to ensure that as a result of our teaching and learning activities, students can develop them. And so what we did, we set up the web page where we start putting the resources that we developed. And again, there are different ways how you can develop curriculum, but our approach was to identify concepts that are important for the students to understand, and then illustrate how these concepts are used in the industries, in greening industries. And at that stage, we looked at the report how Sustainable Development Goals have been implemented in the Asia-Pacific region, and it was a lot of statements that Sustainable Development Goals that relates to environment are not progressing very well. So we decided to focus on these environmental aspects and also the cross-cutting between economic and environment and social and environment. And we did studies in our ASEAN countries, and we asked teachers who are training Tvet teachers what concepts they think are important. So that was the base of research, how we identified them. And then we decided to develop case studies from different type of industries, and you can see we selected 10, so our case studies are related to that. And then now I just show you how our web page might look like. So if you click, for example, on Sustainable Development Goal number 9, you will see that there are 2 concepts that are related to that, and also 4 case studies that are related to that. And in each, we have 3 different resources under each category. So we have the description of the concept, and then student working sheet and teacher's guidelines. And the same for the case study. We have the case study and then the student's working sheet and teacher's guidelines. Why do we have students' working sheet? So we want our teaching and learning be student-centered. So students can do activities by themselves, and then through the classroom they have their discussion. So this is the example how the concept and the case study look like. And we relate them to sustainable development goals. We are talking about the definitions, the industry. So if you are interested, you would be able to see some of these resources. They're open on the website. And this is the student worksheet, and you can see that we identified the generic green skills that the students will develop if they go through this activity. Then we have objective for this activity. Then will they work as individual or in group? What time is it required? What resources it is required? And then what sort of things they actually need to do to discuss. And usually we ask them to read the concept before the class, and in the class we are focusing on the discussion. And you can see this is the example of the concept information sheet that relates to green technologies. Yes, so just more examples. For example, today we mentioned green buildings, and here we brought 3 examples of green buildings from Hong Kong. And when we are talking about the regulations, then we refer to Hong Kong and China and ask students to compare what are the differences and what are the similarities. And teachers' guidelines, they we provide some answers for teachers for the questions that students are discussing, so it is easier for them to prepare for the class. Okay. And based on our resources, we suggested to develop this generic green skills module, which is 26 hours. And you can see that we included a number of topics, a number of case studies, and in Hong Kong, so we basically redesigned the unit that was there previously, based on more student-centered pedagogy. And then, of course, to deliver all that, when we observed the classrooms, we realized that we really need to train our teachers. And we tried different approaches. We also decided where shall we start, and we start with developing of the standards for teachers that are specific for greening Tvet. And so we identified 3 areas: professional knowledge, practice, and engagement. And then there are a number of standards under each category. And I want to refer to the project that I finished in June for UNESCO. But the reason I was able to do that is sitting here, Professor Brewery, because we tried with him to work with a similar approach using same resources online, working with his PhD students. And that worked really well, I think. And so then I sent the proposal to UNESCO Univoc Center, and they just established this core action initiative. And so it was successful, and you can see the objectives that we wanted to achieve. Yes. So, of course, contribute to climate change and sustainable development goal, develop capacities of the teachers, and enable them to apply knowledge and skills that they develop during this course, and also establish a transfer platform so we can share the resources that we develop. So as a result, we have 166 participants. It was 14 leaders from the 6 UNIVOC centers, and you can see that we have them from very different parts of the world, 2 from China, Mongolia, Nigeria, Philippines, and Saudi Arabia. So you can imagine that the contexts were really, really different. And because we believe that what we are doing in terms of teaching and learning should be contextualized, so it was very interesting to look at the resources that were developed by our participants. But I just want to mention one more thing, how we developed this program. You can see that these are competencies that we designed for greening Tvet that the teachers need to have. And then we put on survey and ask our participants to rate on the level from 1 to 5. And then we was trying to decide what should be our focus in training. So we decided that if it is 1 or 2, so not at all proficient or less proficient, and 25% of teachers reply yes, we are not proficient, so we will address this standard. Or if out of 3, less proficient and somewhat proficient, 60% of participants says yes, this is our level, so then we address these standards. So that's why this is the way we identified the areas for our intervention. And you can see here the example of professional knowledge. And you might be surprised that somewhere in the brackets I have 71% with Nigeria, without Nigeria. So that means that in Nigeria we have an institution that has been really active in greening. And so when we calculate their responses, so all responses bump up. But when we're not considering them, it was really going down. So we consider, but still, interestingly enough, still the same standards it was the same profile for the same standards, but for Nigeria it was slightly higher. So based on this, we came up with this training structure. It was 3 workshops with 6 topics, and then 1 webinar at the end, and we asked participants to share what they have been doing. Okay, I know what to do after I hear this bell. I just ignore it and continue, okay? So, and then project deliverables, you can see that now we have our case studies from different countries. And for example, if we look at Saudi Arabia, their case study was about the green Hajj. So I would never think about that before. Yes, and in Mongolia, it's about how to overcome our habit to sit all the time, what sort of devices we can use to exercise and to work. And in China, one of the case studies was super global about green Olympics and how many green features they introduced to prepare for the Olympics. So it was really interesting. And we also translated different resources in different languages, so you can see some examples on our website. And so what lessons we learned, that it is really important if you have, and this is the only cross-cutting section between digitalization and greening, so we use digital to deliver our green training. And we realized that we really should have a committed leader at each center, because we sent homework for the participants in preparation for our workshop, and then also homework to do after the workshop. And that worked really well, because we all know that to change our mindset we need time, and today someone already mentioned that we can't change a person into green person very quickly. So that's why this long-term engagement was really important. And I think that short-term courses can be effective if the person have the right mindset and just want to grab some knowledge or some particular skill. But if we want to convert the person into the green, so we need longer time. And then it is really important to have learning resources with which the people can associate themselves. And then we also have regular project meeting with the leaders from the centers, UNIVOC centers, explaining them what they should do with their participants. And also we are trying to use interactive functions of Zoom. We use translation into Zoom and also poll everywhere to have interaction with participants. And also we established space to share materials with our students. So last 2 slides to conclude. Main points, yes. So there are a number of drivers, including sustainable development goal, greening of economies, demand for particular skills that have an impact on changes that are required in our classrooms. And then studies on education for sustainable development, greening, Tvet, behavior change provide some answers how we can organize our teaching and learning to achieve desirable results. And then curriculum development that introduce sustainable development concepts and examples from greening industries really worked well for the students because it shows them real life what's happening in industry. And also we realize that it can be done as a separate module or the themes can be included into existing courses. And of course it is really important to start with teacher training. And today teacher training was mentioned several times, and of course it is important to have things at the policy level. So for example, now we are working with some European Training Foundation to develop indicators for greening, and I think that these indicators are important to have at the policy level so you can target and then monitor what's going on in terms of greening. And of course, it's important to include these greening elements into the teacher training standards and curriculum for teacher training. And we can introduce different type of green skills in our training, generic but then specific also. And industry, of course, was mentioned many times. It's a very important partner for us to work with. And Tvet institutions. And Tvet institutions can be proactive, so we can't say that everything should go from the top or from the bottom, because we need to go from the top and from the bottom to achieve the better result. And I think that when we're talking about UNESCO strategy, they mentioned 3 levels why Tvet is important and how it can contribute. And I think that today we haven't mentioned individual level a lot, so we mentioned social impact, we mention how we can contribute to economy, but also we contribute to individuals, yes, because they can achieve their targets, they can make their life better, yes, because they will earn money, but also they feel that they are helping our planet to survive. So I think that we shouldn't forget about this 3rd factor. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Margarita Pavlova, for sharing with us crucial insights on the pedagogies for greening and digitalization in the Tvet sector. With that, and with great gratitude, Simia Voktech would like to present Dr. Pavlova with a certificate for her valuable contribution to Simia Voktech International Conference. Once again, thank you, Mr. Alias and Dr. Margarita Pavlova, for giving us the opportunity to share your knowledge with our audience today. The certificate presentation concludes panel discussions. 3, the next session of the Simeo Voctec certificate on Simeo Voctec International Conference on Digitalizing and Greening of Tvet for Sustainable Development will resume after 15 minutes. You may look forward to the third and final panel of presentations focusing on integrating digitalization and greening in Tvet and education and training providers' perspective on digitalization. Sorry? Sorry? Okay. After a break? Yes, correct. Oh, thank you so much. The next session will resume after 15 minutes? 10 minutes, I'm sorry. After 10 minutes, and the panel discussion 4 will begin. Thank you. All right, thank you.
Tvet.net, the one-stop hub for technical and vocational education and training, information in Southeast Asia. The most comprehensive knowledge collection for Tvet learning and collaboration, Tvet.net is home to news, publications, e-learning opportunities, and regional events calendar, offering policymakers and stakeholders from the education sector with useful information to advance Tvet in the region. But what about the private sector? We know the involvement of businesses and skills development is crucial for the quality and relevance of training. However, the private sector continues to be underrepresented in the Tvet dialogue. Although Tvet represents a viable solution to one of the most pressing challenges for companies in ASEAN, creating a skilled and resilient workforce to remain competitive in the changing world of work. It is time to empower companies to get more active in skills development. Our goal is to guide companies in understanding their role in skills development and help them to get started. Therefore, Tvet.net has created the Private Sector page, a knowledge hub for Tvet information, catering specifically to the demands of the business world. Whether businesses are just starting their skills development journey or are already experienced, we provide tailor-made information for everyone. Not sure whether Tvet is a net positive for companies? Become interested by the proven benefits of implementing Tvet. Receive monetary support to get started in Tvet. Identify incentives provided by national governments. Afraid of starting from zero? Find practice cases or be guided by Tvet information relevant to the private sector. Sounds interesting? Then find many more services on our page. With the private sector page, companies finally have labor force in the ASEAN region. Visit the private sector page by cvet.net and spread the word. There are 26 Southeast Asian Ministers of Education organizations units in Southeast Asia with various undertakings on training and research in the field of education, science and culture. Besides the 11 member countries, CIMIO also works together with 9 associate member countries and 6 affiliate members to address common problems in the region. The CIMIO Regional Center for Vocational and Technical Education and Training stands tall among these centers. It was established on 28 August of 1990 in Brunei Darussalam and mandated to assist the CIMIO member countries to identify and solve common problems in technical vocational education and training. At a time of rapid technological changes and shifting market demands in the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, it is now more essential than ever for Tvet as a whole to be dynamic and responsive to the needs of current and future industry requirements. While the future of information and technology is exciting, it requires the Tvet providers to equip the workforce with 21st century skills and disciplines that are essential to succeed in Industry 4.0. In this effort to enhance the skills of our workforce in the post-pandemic era, and for CIMIO VocTech to achieve its 5-year development plan in preparing Tvet for Industry 4.0, CIMIO VocTech continues to strengthen its services to support Tvet trainers and academics in CIMIO member countries and beyond, to identify and solve common problems in Tvet through training development initiatives, research consultancies, and capacity building for Tvet teachers by integrating competency and 21st century skills in Tvet, and distribution of information and knowledge in the region as required in the new age. To prepare Tvet for Industry 4.0, CIMIO VocTech continues to engage with the global Tvet community in understanding the changing economic and industry developments and to ensure that its practices reflect the new market demands through regional and international fora and workshops and exchanging valuable knowledge and dialogue with Tvet policymakers, practitioners, and academics. In response to the shifting demands, CIMIO VocTech has started its flagship training program in 2020, the training of trainers and training of assessors with a certification endorsed by Brunei Darussalam National Accreditation Council, Brunei Darussalam Safety, Health and Environment National Authority, and recognized by the international awarding body National Open College Network United Kingdom to further build the competencies of in-company trainers and assessors in the region befitting of 21st century needs. In addition, CIMIO VocTech prides itself on its expertise in research and research consultancy services with the core aim of elevating the quality of Tvet in the region. Over the years, CIMIO VocTech has also established valuable partnerships with esteemed organizations from the region and beyond to strengthen collaborative efforts in enhancing Tvet skills and knowledge in Southeast Asia. Through meaningful partnerships, CIMIO VocTech has launched Southeast Asia's one-stop knowledge platform, Tvet.net, that enables Tvet players around the world to locate, disseminate, and discuss Tvet developments and information from the region. By end of June 2021, CIMIO VocTech had conducted over 100 workshops, fora, and conferences, over 700 training programs, more than 120 research projects, secured over 70 partnerships, and garnered over 60,000 visitors across its website and knowledge platform. As the world accelerates headlong into the advancement of digitalization, CIMIO VocTech aims to take charge in preparing Tvet for Industry 4.0 and fostering a skilled workforce that is future-ready, together with our CIMIO member countries, partners, and Tvet teachers and trainers in the region and beyond. Tvet.net, the one-stop hub for technical and vocational education and training, information in Southeast Asia. the most comprehensive knowledge collection for Tvet learning and collaboration, Tvet.net is home to news, publications, e-learning opportunities, and regional events calendar, offering policymakers and stakeholders from the education sector with useful information to advance Tvet in the region. But what about the private sector? We know the involvement of businesses in skills development is crucial for the quality and relevance of training. However, the private sector continues to be underrepresented in the Tvet dialogue. Although Tvet represents a viable solution to one of the most pressing challenges for companies in ASEAN, creating a skilled and resilient workforce to remain competitive in the changing world of work. It is time to empower companies to get more active in skills development. Our goal is to guide companies in understanding their role in skills development and help them to get started. Therefore, Tvet.net has created the private sector page, a knowledge hub for Tvet information, catering specifically to the demands of the business world. Whether businesses are just starting their skills development journey or are already experienced, we provide tailor-made information for everyone. Not sure whether Tvet is a net positive for companies? Become interested by the proven benefits of implementing Tvet. Receive monetary support to get started in Tvet. Identify incentives provided by national governments. Afraid of starting from zero? Find practice cases or be guided by Tvet information relevant to the private sector. Sounds interesting? Then find many more services on our page. With the private sector page, companies finally have a comprehensive and hands-on overview to start engaging in skills development. Easy to understand, up-to-date, and directly actionable. Let's strengthen the collaboration among all relevant Tvet partners for creating a higher skilled and work-ready labor force in the ASEAN region. Visit the private sector page by Tvet.net and spread the word.
Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, panel discussion 3 will resume shortly. Please return to your seats as we are about to begin with the third round of presentations of the International Conference. Hello and welcome back, everyone. Let us begin with the panel discussion 3 on Simeo Voctec International Conference on Digitalizing and Greening Tvet for Sustainable Development. The panel will be focusing on the topic of integrating digitalization and greening in Tvet, which will be moderated by Mr. Ansgar Schaefer, Integrated Tvet Expert from Simeo Secretariat, Thailand. Please welcome Mr. Ansgar Schaefer and the panelists.
Thank you, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone had time to grab a coffee and is a bit more awake now. To make sure, nevertheless, please, let's wake everyone up this afternoon with a loud applause for our speakers. One more time. Okay, thank you very much. Big thank you to our speakers who already very proactively took a seat here in the stage so we can get ready to talk about integrating greening and digitalization in Tvet for our third panel here today. As our speakers, we have Dr. McKee, we have Mr. Volker Schmidt, we have Mr. Stephen Yee, and we have Ms. Siti Rosaimeriyanti, DSLJ, Aji Abdul Rahman, and I hope I can call you Ms. Yanti from here on out. Thank you. And we have Mr. Sven Obern. So in the first panel today, we talked about digitalization in Tvet. In the second panel, we talked about green skills, green transformation. For our panel now, we want to talk about how can we integrate greening and digitalization in Tvet. How does technology transform our Tvet itself to make it greener? How does technological advancements and increase in interest in renewable energies changes the skill demands by the industry? And lastly, how can we make sure that everything we provide actually matches the industry demand? So for this, we have on our panel leading didactical solution providers, and we have on our panel people from the industry and private sector who have a very, very keen eye and knowledge about matching skill, supply and demand. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Steve McKee. Dr. Steve McKee is the President Emeritus of the World Didac Association and President and founder of LabTech International, which is a leader in the design, development, and manufacturing of technical education systems for both hands-on and virtual learning. LabTech partners and supports Tvet LabTech partners and supports Tvet projects around the world to transition to digital learning, to migrate the problems that arose during COVID, and for a better post-COVID world of learning. Dr. Steve McKee, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Angsar. It's a pleasure to be here with you today to discuss about how we can integrate digital learning into our practices for Tvet. And for us at LabTech as a solution provider, as Angsar said, we develop a lot of the tools for learning about various Tvet subjects. And in particular, we operate into automotive, air conditioning, electronics, computer IT, renewable energies, electrical technology, even biomedical, and also Industry 4.0, including IoT solutions. But as providers of this, I've been a lifelong student of educational development, particularly in the Tvet area. And we're always concerned that our job is only done when things work properly, when we're producing students with employable skills that are relevant to industry. This is when we are satisfied that we are accomplishing what we want to do. It's not about creating just the training systems, but it's the use that they're put to. Now, when we come to the digital side of that, there's a more complicated story on that. By the way, we work in about 90 countries around the world, so we have a very unique, privileged position of observing how various countries go through their educational development processes, both their successes and I think more importantly their failures too as well. And when we started to go into digital education, we've been doing e-learning for about 20 years or so, and we've been on the evolution from starting in simple text-based LMS systems to then doing videos, and now we're doing cutting-edge game-based interactions and simulations in 3D and mixed reality and AR and VR. But when you get into those types of things, then it is a different development picture, and it's not just the new technologies, but it's a whole different structure that you need to actually use those things efficiently. And so we've been looking at the processes of this. I want to share some of this with you. But during the COVID crisis, it really has accelerated. Some of my friends in the IT industry say that we've done about 8 years of technological development and advancement during the last 2.5 years. And this includes IR 4.0. We've seen a huge shift in industry and from working from home, and all that technology is developed. And this has really changed our society, and COVID has left its mark on all of us. And so I think a good way to look at this, we should look at answering both of these issues about digital learning and also IR 4.0, which directly affects the Tvet area, by using the tools of IR 4.0 that industry is using and adapt them to the needs of education. And this is a very good way to look at this, to create content that is connected, that's interactive, data-driven. We now have really interesting data, as Brad shared with you earlier, on if we do use digital tools in the right way, we can have a huge impact in the knowledge that our students are able to acquire, how fast they're able to acquire it, and how fast they are able to learn. They can have a very positive impact on that. And so one of the secrets to this is focus on what the students don't know. Use this RPL technology for recognition prior learning to identify what the student already knows and spend your time concentrating on what they don't know. This is what we want to do as teachers anyway. There's no point in teaching people what they already know. But in our traditional method of teaching, we bring everybody through the same course, the same pace at all times. This is really not a very efficient way to do things. And we can use this technology to this effect. Now, this is a chart that actually came out in 2021, but I think it's very applicable to now. We've gone through a roller coaster journey on rushing to digitalization, which was created by necessity, and there's a huge uptake in this. And I have to say it's probably done as much harm as it's done good in the way that it's left a bad impression on many education ministries. It was difficult, the teachers were not prepared, the ministries were not prepared, everybody was forced to do it, the students had problems with it. We've had huge issues in learning losses over the past couple of years, which is going to take some time for us to recover from. And then we've gone into an up and down period, but now if you look at the phase 4, this is where we are at this point. There's a choice facing many countries and institutions and even teachers. Where do you go from here? Are you going to embrace digital learning and make it better and actually more effective, or do you revert back to what you're doing? And we will see different institutions in different countries go through one of those trajectories. And it's up to you which trajectory you want to be on. And so I think we really are at a pivot point of making those choices and decisions. Which direction do you want to be on? Do you want to embrace digital learning and make it more effective and let's change the face of learning? Or are we going to revert back to the previous normalcy of this? And I do think that in my 40 years of being in international education development, the impact that we could see that digitized learning or digital learning or virtual Tvet coming into the training situation, the classroom, can make the biggest difference I've ever seen. You know, I think there was a huge difference in having well-designed professional training equipment, made a big difference, but the digital learning can have a huge impact on this. So, but we need to do it in the right way. I think a good way to look at this, we talked about curriculum needs to be revised. And so we need to have the curriculum that includes digital learning as a planned method of delivery. And so it becomes basically the third pillar. We have the teacher as the first pillar, we have the lab as the second pillar, and digital learning as a pillar that can be deployed in a variety of ways that help both the teacher and in the lab processes. And so if we look at this and plan for it, it really starts with that. And I think another thing that it can have a big impact in is assessment, and particularly formative assessments. Our colleagues from the ITE shared what they're doing assessments, which is very interesting to see that. And another side of this is formative assessment. So formative assessment is where we can use assessing tools and learning pathways through the gamification of learning to identify what the student doesn't know and take him back through what we call learning loops to learn what he is missing. It fulfills that missing part. And so we're seeing that this can have an impact of around up to 20% more knowledge that can be acquired. So if you had a student at a 70% level, it can move them up to an 85 or 90% level to understanding. It has a huge impact on this. And this is very difficult to do in person as a teacher because you need to have this quite automated. Okay, that's our first bell. So So we should not silo how we're doing the development here, that we should coordinate curriculum, how the buildings are, what the equipment is. The teacher development is very important, and I really want to skip to the teacher development here of this. And so this is something that we've been working on with CMEO Voctech and also the Colombo Plant Staff College. We have Professor Wick here today from there. As part of LabTech's CSR program, we've initiated a teacher training initiatives in partnership with CMEO and CPSC to bring to the public, particularly to the Asian and the ASEAN area, teacher training courses for blended learning. And we're learning a lot about this, and I invite you all to join into these programs. You can contact Director Alias or Professor Wick about this. You can see the schedules for this. We've trained already over 400 teachers just in the last 18 months. And it is having a positive impact, but we also want to invite all of the member countries here to participate in this, and these courses can be adopted and used in your pre-service and your in-service programs too as well. We also put into Brunei recently a mobile blended learning smart lab in there, which they're going to be using in their training programs. When they come and do training for their member countries, you may see this, that they'll be able to use digital learning through these devices. We've created the online learning portal for them too, as well, and the teacher training program, as I mentioned before, which has gained a lot of acclaim and is something that continues to develop. So the other thing that Brad promised I would touch on is that as we're talking about the use of this is really important. You know, it's not enough about creating new content, but we have to do the teacher development, but it's more than that. We kind of look at the development structure. We developed a framework that we've been working on for maybe 10 years or more, which is how to implement digital learning in a Tvet environment. And we break this up into the 3 I's, the infrastructure, infoculture. And this is the facilities, the hardware. This is the infrastructure, is the content, the learning platforms, the assessments is in there. And infoculture is things like the curriculum, your policy, your capacity building, your change management or growth management. And this is really the most important part. So if you look at this, you can start with the infrastructure and kind of understand that, and then the infrastructure, and then end up in the infoculture. But when you start to implement it, you probably need to start at the infoculture and work backwards in this. And so this is going to be a leadership workshop that we're going to do together with CMEO and also CPSC, and we invite you to participate in this. Announcements will be made about this in the next quarter of this coming year. And so we are trying to assist in the policy plan for transformation, provide model labs, teacher skills for change, and we're working on providing the new tools for the teachers and the learners. So that's our program, and that we're doing together with CMEO. And you know, we invite you. We hope that we see you in some of these programs as we work together. And let's make digitalization, Tvet, a reality as we come forth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. McKee. Thank you for highlighting how COVID has impacted the advancement of digitalization in teaching and training, for highlighting the initiatives LabTech is doing together with CME VocTech, and of course for giving it an insight in the digital Tvet framework. As our next speaker, I would like to introduce Mr. Volker Schmidt, who is currently holding the position of the Regional Director of the Asia and Pacific for Festo Didactic. During the past 2 decades, Dr. Schmidt has been developing the educational market for Festo Didactic in Asia, Middle East, and parts of Africa, and published, among others, in the fields of curricular design, holistic approaches of training, and excellence centers. Part of the management team, he is also part of the management team of the newly established Competence Center for Digitalization, Technologies and Innovation, or CDTI, which is jointly being set up by TUM Asia and Festo Didactic in Singapore.
Thank you very much, Ansgar. Thank you. Wonderful good afternoon to everybody, and thanks for staying back that long. And tell those ones who left already, that's the most interesting part of the whole day. But anyway, my slides are quite long. I will speak a bit faster. I will not speak about every slide. I will skip them, but later on the presentation will be shared, and then you can slowly go through all the slides, and if there are any questions, please do not hesitate to get back to me at any time. The title itself is sometimes a bit misleading, digitalization and greening. How does that fit together? I mean, digitalization, we all know, for example, the cryptocurrencies and the crypto mining is consuming so much energy. So when we have this maybe things in mind that may digitalization and greening, how does that fit together? I will give you a lot of good answers from the industrial perspective, and this is where Festo actually is coming from. Let me start with some guiding questions to you, how digitalization and sustainability changes the enterprises. In particular now, with the high energy costs for the companies, also for the institutes, how do we keep on lowering our energy expenditures? How is that possible also by using digital? And then how can digitalization be used to achieve sustainable goals? That's exactly what the industry is interested as well. And how can we foster the skill and competency development within the context of digitalization and sustainability. So these are the guiding questions. Agenda, not important. Also not so important is Festo as one of the leading companies in automation, tending to about 4 billion euro revenue this year, and together with Festo Didactic, building the Festo group of companies in automation and at the same time being the market leader in technical education and training and industrial workforce development. So the world has changed. I mean, everybody spoke about it today. Also, Stephen just mentioned we are talking already about the post-pandemic area. But of course, the pandemic itself helped us to speed up certain points and certain issues when it comes to digitalization. Also for Festo, this has changed a lot of things. But when you see this picture, this is actually our production environment and our eco-environment from, you can start at the top, from the cloud all the way down to the shop floor. We have the customers involved. And on the left-hand side, which is something which is always forgotten, but this is actually training. And later on, also Professor Pavlova, you just spoke about some generic and specific skills. And this is exactly what is required now in order to master the future challenges in terms of overcoming the digitalization hurdle, and at the same time also to work towards sustainable goals. So internally here we speak also about a capability shift. I mean, I'm really coming to this point what is required. But this capability shift is needed in order to bring existing employees into the new fields, into new topics like digital topics. Sometimes we talk about bring the people from a screwdriver to a tablet. We shouldn't forget that we have a lot of people in Germany, don't misunderstand me, but we have a lot of people, meaning in the last working decade of their working life, that means people above 55 to 67. And to bring people in the age above 60 from a screwdriver to a tablet is a complete different challenge compared to bring a 15-year-old from a screwdriver to a tablet. So this needs to be keep in mind, and we call this internally capability shift. And our mission is also now, how can we bring this to our partners, our customers, and in particular, how can we bring this to the teachers and into a certain Tvet environment, meeting all those very interesting and excitement catchwords of greening, of digitalization and sustainability. Also very important from the industrial point of view, we need to differentiate between larger industries and medium and smaller size entities. Larger industries, they are far ahead, they are doing digital integration long ago, but small and medium-sized companies have lost a bit track, and we need to support them also in particular with skills in terms of digitalization and greening. A lot of countries here in this area, in this region, unfortunately focus a bit more on the larger companies. But please do not forget, we have a lot of countries in the region. Singapore, for example, is not really having larger entities. Australia is not really having larger entities. And also here in Thailand, we have hundreds of thousands small and medium-sized enterprises, which is a huge employer. In Germany, that's also the backbone of the society of the taxpayers. It's the medium-sized companies. So we should also keep an eye on those ones and not forget to support those as well. So coming to a very practical example, cost saving, and this is something Dr. Pavlova, you nicely mentioned about. What are generic skills and what are specific skills? Maybe a catchword that you may have heard is a CEO. In my opinion, CEO in the future might be a Chief Energy Officer. And this is cost saving right from the first minute. When we observe some energy patterns around the world, the data that I'm showing is roughly 10 years old from Germany. And when we go into the manufacturing sector, we see a lot of patterns and a lot of opportunities where energy consumption can be really addressed. Digitalization helps us nowadays to measure energy consumption, to visualize, to network, and really also use artificial intelligence to decrease, in particular, energy consumption. When we talk about a bakery, for example, that's process heat. Here we cannot do much. Process heat is a bit difficult to handle. But for a lot of other material handling companies, for packaging companies, in the garment industry. Here we have a lot of opportunities to save energy. In fluid power, for example, up to 60%. We have a very nice topic, and maybe there are some mechanical engineers among us, a topic of over-dimensioning. Why do engineers still tend to use a bigger engine if a smaller engine can do it? That's the questions we need to address nowadays. I would also call this the low-hanging fruits. A lot of people, when they talk about sustainability, they talk about starting with solar power, for example. Fully correct, not wrong. But I think we should start earlier, and this is avoiding wasting energy. And this is the most important, and in particular the most interesting aspect of companies at the moment. How can I avoid wasting energy? How can I save energy? How can I become more energy efficient? Because with the recent development over the last 12 months, in terms of energy consumption and prices, it's no longer the human resources which is the most costliest factor in the world. It's the energy, it's the logistics, it's the raw materials on the market. So these things can be addressed, and this has to be included into a Tvet program. Create awareness in, for example, over-dimensioning, train the mechanical engineers. This engine, this size will do it. You don't need the next bigger one. And so on. It goes all the way down to something very strange, which is called leakage detection. We are offering training programs on leakage detection. It's actually one of the best running training courses worldwide. We have done it with Nestle. Nestle can easily save €1 million in their production facilities around the world. And it's only Nestle, that's only one company. We can talk about Unilever, we can talk about Foxconn, we can talk about Samsung, you name it. Also here in Thailand, we have a lot of Japanese manufacturers. Leakage detection leads to cost saving. So this has to be included into the national curriculums. Unfortunately, there's only one, I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think up till now there's only one country in the world that has included sustainability in the national curricula, and that's Italy. Might that be correct, Professor Pablo? I don't know. I think it's still only Italy that has already included sustainability in the national curricula. No other country has done so far. I think it doesn't need and it doesn't require a lot to do this for a lot of other countries as well. So in the last 2 minutes, let me quickly look a bit in the future what is upcoming regarding competencies. And I talked already about this capability shift within the companies. Still, we need a lot of basic skills. And a lot of basic skills can also not be taught solely using digital solutions. We need practical we need practical skill development, we need physical touch points. Steven has shown a very nice mobile training unit. Maybe it's roaming among 10 schools. So also utilization might be addressed. Of course, preparing students using digital and then going towards this new approach, which is a combination of digital and physical touch points, which we name as a learning experience solution. Of course, we also have our digital learning platform. And I'm very happy that the VET, CMEO VET network is already partnering with us regarding this network. We have done a few teacher trainings already, all around fluid power, mechatronics, Industry 4.0, electrical engineering, and so on. A few topics of sustainability are included as well, and more to come. And here we see a little bit of an overview, what is coming in the future. I mean, we have in digitalization now, we have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 new job roles. My favorite job role, the new CEO role, is not there. That's Chief Energy Officer. But I'm very confident that this will be boosted in the very, very, very short time because of companies are really, really suffering regarding their energy bills. Not only energy, I also talked about logistics, I talked about in-house logistics, whatsoever, you name it. We have a wonderful opportunity to bring this together. And as I said in the beginning, digitalization can help. We can finally visualize and analyze what's going wrong in my systems. 10 years ago, we were not able. Still 5 years ago, we were also not able, for example, in our own products, how is the air circulating Only nowadays, with the newest and latest IT developments and IT software tools, we are able to visualize it, to understand it, and to work also minimizing and also be more energy efficient. So this is what you will get anyway because of sharing the slides, so I will not go into this capability shift and into this digital transformation topic. As Ansgar also mentioned, if you have time, if you pass by Singapore, come to our flagship center, which we are running together with the Technical University of Munich, in order to provide courses, mainly short courses to the industry that can be even up to a curricular program of 240 hours. But this is also our development center for future courses out of Singapore for the region. We talk about, at the moment, recycling. We talk about circular economy. All those catchwords which are upcoming are tested, developed, and then brought to the region also in terms of teacher training. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. And I promised actually my speakers that I won't speak too much during the individual panelists so that they have more time for their presentation. So thank you very much for that very insightful presentation, Mr. Schmidt. And without further ado, I would like to introduce the next speaker, Mr. Stephen Yee, who is Deputy Executive Director for Corporate Learning Centers and Workforce Transformation of the Singapore National Employers Federation. He works closely with the Institute of Technical Education, polytechnics and universities, and Skills Future Singapore under the Ministry of Education in Singapore to reach out to employers for work-study programs and to match skill demand and supply. He is a founding board member of the ASEAN Future Workforce Council and has also been appointed as the Vice Chairman and Chairman of the ASEAN Future Workforce Council Singapore chapter. Mr. Stephen Yee, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Good afternoon to all of you. It is always a very challenging session, especially you are right immediately after lunch and an afternoon tea break. Okay, but I try to make it as simple as possible. Reason being is that all the keynote speakers, panel speakers that are ahead of us actually cover quite a fair bit of things. And I think there's a lot of alignment here, okay, where I hear about collaboration, I hear about industry-driven, I also hear about government forming part of the infrastructure and so on. I think we need that. I only got 7 slides, don't worry. I'm not going to bore you with too many things, but enough for you to take away, plus all the other speakers as well. I was very fair to my industry and my industry members. They have to do all the talking because they're selling a lot of things, and I think there are great things out there. And I'm also going to thank the organizer here today. I think you have a beautiful pairing, digitalization and green. Okay, and if today we will do digitalization, it's so lonely, but together with green, I think it's a fantastic pair. Okay, now, allow me to just move on to my slides. Dr. Priano was saying that, Stephen, can you crack a joke or two? That's my first joke. Very good pairing. Okay, now, the technical and vocational education training. If you look at it, the Tvet, obviously we all know that they play an important role in knowledge and skill. Okay, if I were to share that align with the SDG, the 17 goals, you can look at 4, the quality education, 8, the decent work and economic growth. Decent work, my ILO colleague there will be very happy. Employers seldom use the word decent work, but I think in recent time, you guys have shaped a lot to get an IOE. I think we recognize that. Okay, now, the other thing is the climate control. I think the earlier speaker, Amit, you mentioned about climate control. All this is there. So allow me just to share a little bit while we are thinking about doing all this. There's something that we need to do right. Correct? When you say about integrating, what are we talking about integration? Correct? I mean, it's just not 1 + 1, you know? It is sometimes not that straightforward. But what is the not so straightforward? Now, I'll tell you the not so straightforward shortly. Now, the right mindset and attitude is important. I think Dr. Margarita, you mentioned about behavior. Okay, I attended your lecture. I'm shaped by you, don't worry. Now, a well-designed education training program is important. I think we need to recognize the fact that academic, practitioner, you need to come together. Okay, we need to learn from each other. I always think probably of my practitioners because I run an academic academy serving my members. But over time, I also decided that I should work with the academic because you have vast knowledge, you have your labs where you can do prototyping and so on. That's where my colleague from ITE, we got a very strong 5-year MOU with you guys for the Center for On-the-Job Training. And I think in recent time, just now, I think Dr. Ang shows a lot of the gadgets and the stuff they're doing. I'm very impressed. In fact, I don't even know how to do secure proctoring, remote proctoring. So I think I had to learn a lot from you guys as well. Now, the other thing is that the government has to set the right policy. We have to influence. That's important. And also the skills strategy, how to strengthen all those areas there. As mentioned, education, science, even the culture aspects of it. And obviously all the sustainable changes. Now, when they talk about sustainable changes, it always comes to our mind innovation, creativity, new ideas, share knowledge. The first two, you can call it the century, future skills. Those are very important. In fact, after a while, I was also talking to the Association of Engineers. I said, you guys, don't be so technical, don't be so hard, but you need the soft skills that's needed to blend it very well, and we need to generate new ideas, a better way of doing it. Unfortunately, pandemic has forced us, the COVID-19 has forced us to think differently. I can still remember the days when I was trying to push flexible work arrangement. It sounds like an alien thing, nobody cares about it. Only when COVID-19 comes, everybody has to force to work at home. Don't know why it happens. Big exodus of people going there, IT for overnight. They try to figure out whatever you do, and everybody decided that they should put a common place called the cloud storage. Obviously, the IT guy, the software guys, all are in good time, but that was a time where they had to flip everything. And that's where we realized that you need a pandemic to change the mindset of how people adopt or adapt. And again, this shared knowledge. I think today we are gathered here, sharing knowledge among ourselves, thinking of how to work together and collaborate and cooperation. I was told that there's a draft declaration. So that one I leave it to the organizer. I was looking at it after lunch. I was saying, can we talk over dinner? Very good facts in there. And I'm glad that there are things that involve the employers, industry, partners together to form a declaration. So the detail, I'll leave it to the organizer to share later. Now, one good thing, allow me, don't be disalarmed when I leave out the workers. That is part and parcel of the employers, but the government does play a part. I think in our case, like Singapore, we are a pretty small island, small nation. Government always takes the charter and provides the necessary based on the feedback from the industry, because we need to move ahead of time. Ahead, sometimes too fast, but whatever it is, I think it's for the good cause. Yes, we do sometimes move too fast. We're not careful, but we U-turn and do it right again. Okay, now, obviously, for the employers, I think it's time for you to also look at working with the Tvet school, build a corporate academy as well, if there's a need to, and obviously the big thing that not happening, mentioned in today's context, is about workplace learning. Okay, so that culture has to come in as well, and obviously we are talking about elements of sustainability and green. I can remember that 1 year ago, the government agency was approaching me. They say, can we look at green standards? Okay, all of us look at each other very pale, no? Our face almost turned green. So we are saying that, come on, another standard, how are we going to do it? Is it going to be across all sectors? It has to be. But later we decided not to come out the standard, but we embed in every of our skills framework, just like how we did it for our digital competencies as well. So I think it makes sense. Obviously, that evolved into new job roles like Chief Sustainability Officer, CSO. I just wonder whether would there be a Chief Green Officer in time to come. Okay, so that's something that we can think of. Okay, for the Tvet school, I got 2 more minutes left. For the Tvet school, curriculum is something that I think many speakers have spoke about, the way how you do it, the content, the delivery, and the capacity of the trainers or the instructor. These are important. So I think we need to look at that. And I'm pretty also a strong advocate of environment as well. I think you really need to model the new schools or the new infrastructure with environment that talks about what you are doing as well. That's the reason why we partner with James Cook University in Singapore. We look at certain aspects of it. They were strong in the maritime aspects of it. So we can't do it alone. Yes, today I know many new friends. I think over dinner we can talk about partnership as well. I think today we are not limiting to the fact that it is just within the country. In fact, it's borderless. I think Simo, Votec, you have demonstrated that. We are keen to work with you as well, okay, to see how we can benefit more learners and ultimately the benefits the employers as well. Okay, I think that's about all I have. I think I keep it within 8 minutes. And the rest of the questions, if any question, please post it up. We see how we can answer those questions within the time frame given. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stephen Yee. Especially thank you for highlighting the mindset in employers, in the public sector, and in students that drives changes in Tvet towards sustainability. Thank you. As our next speaker, I would like to welcome Ms. Yanti, who is the Director and Principal Architect of Ecobumi Architect in Brunei Darussalam, and who was the Chairman of the ASEAN Business Advisory Council in 2021. She is also a founding member of the ASEAN Future Workforce Council, and is currently the co-chair of Manpower Industry Steering Committee for Construction and the incoming Secretary General of the ASEAN Interparliamentary Assembly. Ms. Yanti, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Ansgar, for the introduction, and I actually requested for a very simplified introduction. Truly a great honor to be here today, and I'm actually feeling very lucky to be embedded with the guys here. I'm the lucky person here. And a very good afternoon to everyone. I know it's very challenging for everybody to stay awake, so please bear with us. Salam sejahtera and also sabadika. So before I begin, allow me to warmly thank Semio Votec and Jericho Tvet for the kind invitation for me to take part in this event. And of course, my last time that I was in Bangkok was in 2020, just before the pandemic. Always love to actually come to Thailand, and I am elated to be here with all of you as our collaborative efforts in ensuring that we are not leaving anyone behind in this green transition. Now, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me just begin by setting the scene. Now, the fourth industrial revolution has always been at the forefront at our agenda and was rapidly changing the landscape of work in the Southeast Asia, even before the pandemic. Now, during the pandemic, it has accelerated even further, and we anticipated forcing us to innovate and find solutions. At the same time, we also need to acknowledge our contribution as ASEAN to the climate change. And I would like to share, coming from the construction industry, I'm an architect in practice, and according to the International Energy Agency, in 2020, ASEAN's building sector accounted for more than 20% of carbon emission. And it's clearly that climate change is impacting the job markets and global supply chains, with millions having left or lost their jobs amid the unprecedented instability and disruption. Now, the job market has been under a lot of pressure, as millions of workers leaving their jobs in search of roles that offer better subsistence, working conditions, and work-life balance. Now, first, there was the Great Resignation, where millions of workers voluntarily quit their jobs, and this was in 2021. Then we witnessed the Great Reshuffle, where employees began to search for more fulfilling roles and purpose in their work. Now, the workforce is coming to a crucial realization of the existing green skills imbalances brought by digitalization. Clearly, we have to move fast. So the world of work plays a critical role in transitioning to the low-carbon energy economy. And through that transition is dependent on our capabilities and capacity to identify, assess, and develop green skills. Now, this brings me to my next point. So why green skills? And according to the World Economic Forum, there's a lot of data that has been shared. More than 1.47 billion jobs globally depend on a stable climate. I don't know whether you guys can actually see that. Probably. Oh, there you go. I'm sorry. And that the progressing innovation means that many jobs are yet to be invented. And the need of green skills development cannot be underestimated. Now, last year, during Brunei Chairmanship, the third strategic trust was actually focused on sustainability that touches on a framework for the circular economy for the ASEAN economic community as part of the priority economic deliverables. And this is aimed to advance an inclusive and sustainable economic growth in ASEAN. And furthermore, the commitment made in COP26, which was to really reach net zero by the middle of the century, and now we're talking about COP27. Now, the Skills for the Green Economy white paper published by EDICO Group highlighted that without skills development, it is estimated that the global economy could shed as many as 71 million jobs in its move towards becoming circular. Now, the global economy may have to offset a loss of 7 million jobs in moving towards sustainable energy. Now, on the other hand, smart policies and investments in reskilling could reverse this prospect so much that the energy sector alone could produce a net growth of 18 million jobs. Now, it is important to note that the skills and green economy is not a one-way street, but it shapes each other. And without skilling, any progress towards the green transition would be impossible. So, how does the role of private sector come into the picture? I would like to echo with our two keynote speakers as well. I mean, Julian, Dr. Margareta, and also from our panelist, Amir. Now, the complexity of the green transition has brought upon us requires a consolidated solution provided with a strong link. Again, we touch on partnership. And we have to look into this tripartite partnership between the industry, like regulatory, and also education. And the private sector can actually help identify demand for skills, feed the curricular development, develop monitoring and evaluation activities, as well as managing training institutions, train the trainers through sharing practices, and let's make it more practical. Now, the private sector always requires a platform for frequent engagements and dialogue, including in the working level meetings, and furthermore, promoting new approaches on Tvet, such as apprenticeship-based training programs. Now, in Brunei, last year, we actually managed, and we worked together very closely with IBTE, the first dual Tvet program in construction, based on demand from industry, was actually established as an effort from the Manpower Industries Steering Committee working together with the institution and also with the regulatory side, which I actually co-chaired this sector. As we know, Singapore is one of the countries in ASEAN that has set the bar in effectively integrating vocational and also technical education in this system, which encourage other countries in the region to follow. Now, last year, I highlighted, this is what we actually had this discussion with GIZ Reco Tvet, why is CVET-NET very public sector oriented? And where is the voice from the private sector? And I'm glad that today is the launching of the private sector page. And thank you so much, Chigo Alias, and also your team for really listening to this. So I would like to congratulate Simeo Voctech and GIZ Reco Tvet for the launching today, as I think they are setting as a role model to really engage the private sector together with the ASEAN Business Advisory Council, which I also chaired last year, and together as a catalyst with the ASEAN Future Workforce to advance in terms of the business and also Tvet, in which the founding member, my colleague here, Stephen, is also part of the team. So how can we actually contribute to just transition towards the green economy and making sure that no one is left behind? And the formula is that we require skills investments. We've heard about funding just now to fully utilize the innovation that technology brings, and it is actually essential for all stakeholders, again, the tripartite partnership, to collaborate, that we can only progress towards this transition that ensures no one is really left behind. And this is always the ASEAN way, not to leave anyone behind. Now, the skills investment and development needs to be understood not merely as a result of the transition, but rather as a decisive factor that enables the green transition. And utilizing the contribution towards green transition can be done through building energy-efficient buildings and use of other technology. And one example that we've always seen still new to the industry is really the 3D printing that is creating low carbon, zero wastage, and many more. If I can actually just share a little bit of my projects that was actually completed last year. One of it is really the board that was in Temburong, and it is actually operates based on 100% renewable energy off-grid with solar power. And the other one is still in the process of a bidding, where we're using BIM software and also a 3D printing, and it is in Brunei. It's the first one of a kind for one of the surau in this really Temburong area. And something that we actually learn a lot, especially on sustainable design. Now, according to the OECD in 2020, if the full potential of renewable energy is utilized, jobs in the energy sector could rise more than 70%, which is to reach about 100 million by 2050. Now, in moving forward, we need to heighten our commitment in obligatory reskilling, ensuring that the existing workforce skills remains relevant. Hence, we need to move towards this green transition. That means we'll require a coordinated approach and commitment across all stakeholders. Government, business, education, institution, workforce have a shared responsibility in delivering skills policy. And to conclude, it is crucial that we prepare the workforce with these essential skills needed through upskilling, reskilling towards the green transition. But it is also through ASEAN's spirit of collaboration that we can overcome the challenges as we continue to recover stronger together towards a sustainable, inclusive, resilient, and green future. Sama-sama. Khap kun kha.
Thank you very much, Ms. Yanti. You mentioned in your presentation in the beginning and in the middle to leave no one behind. I intend to do the same by smoothly transitioning to our last speaker, and who is Mr. Sven Obern. He's the CEO of ETS Didactic. And when I received his bio information, I received a long list of many numbers of years of experience in many different fields. So I hope it's okay if I summarize and introduce you as an expert in Tvet with over 20 years of experience and as an expert for digital engineering and in developing didactic solutions for Industry 4.0 and for green technologies. Mr. Urban?
Thank you. Good afternoon and a very warm welcome. First of all, I would like to thank the other panelists for sharing the interesting insights with us. I've learned of a new job title, Chief Energy Officer from Volker. So, thank you. ETS Didactic is one of the leading German manufacturers for didactic equipment for technical training. We are focused on solutions for electrical engineering, mechanical, mechatronics, and IT technology. So digitalization and green technology is the heart of this. My company is a family-run business, well established in the didactic market, and we have more than 25 years of experience in international educational project business. We are located in Bavaria, in the south of Germany, and ETS has executed a lot of educational projects, tech projects here in the ASEAN region. We provide solutions for polytechnics, for Tvet, and for higher education. As we are well known in the dual education system, our valued customers are Siemens, for example, Tesla, BMW, Daimler. Just to give you some examples, these companies are using our equipment in their international apprenticeship training centers worldwide. Digitalization and green technology are two of the major product lines for upskilling we offer at ETS, as these topics are from highest interest worldwide. On the slide, you can see on the left-hand side a digital factory with a CPS station. It's a digital production line for training. And on the right-hand side, you can see a project for renewable energy. There, the participants install or learn how to install a PV system on the roof of an institute. And the control panels, inverters, and training equipment are in the lab in the level below. These two topics, digitalization and green technology, put a lot of attention to the Tvet sector because the demand of skilled and tech-driven professionals, or so-called in Germany Facharbeiter, is huge to maintain and shape this great transformation process for our society in the upcoming years. In Germany these days, we're talking much about the change in energy supplies from carbon-based towards renewable energy, or from automated industrial production towards digital production, data-driven production, or Industry 4.0. And with this goes hand in hand the demand of new capabilities, new skills and competencies, as well as modified curriculums. How to make it interesting for young talents, the boys and girls? The question is how to inspire them for the future technologies, how to engage them to develop the relevant skills. The demand is a mixture of ICT specialists with automation or energy-related skills at the same time. With these elaborated competencies, they will have a kind of job guarantee as young persons entering into the labor market, whether here in Thailand or anywhere else in the world. That again emphasizes the attractiveness of Tvet. The lack of ICT skills was reported by the latest OECD report from 2021. And against this we have to fight. That means we have to teach the latest technologies. When it comes to AI, artificial intelligence, you know, this is a huge buzzword, but with a great impact. For Tvet, I consider it will be a great chance because it needs completely different capabilities, skills, and knowledge to install or maintain AI modules in production lines. It's necessary to attend special courses to get this knowledge and becoming a professional in this area. With the ETS didactic AI training modules, you can prepare young people and train the professionals for this challenge. With digitalization, our policy is experience digitalization. We provide learning scenarios based on augmented reality or mixed reality to make the young talents feel the digitalization and bridging the gap between theory and practical issues to build up their competencies with innovative learning situations. The ETS solutions train the skills and support the competency-based approach of technology transfer. We need to prepare the next generation of skilled workforce according to the demand of industry and craftsmen's skills. Now I would like to draw your attention to another aspect. Green technology and also digitalization are two major topics attracting girls and women to engage in technical-driven occupations and starting a technical education. To be part in the process to design and shape a more sustainable world, eco-friendly, reduced energy consumption, carbon-free. That exactly is what motivates women to choose technical occupations. They are curious to shape a better environment. At the same time, the ILO reports for Thailand, but that counts as well for many other countries, that the girls at the age of 15 are doing much better with mathematics and physics than the boys. That's what means it will be important, that's a great potential, to engage the girls in these new key technologies. With women in technology-related occupations, we can find new ways and solutions for the huge transformation demand, and that contributes the Tvet for the next decade. It helps to reduce the gender gap in technical occupations. Worldwide, there will be a great demand attracting women into the technical working world and to give them access to technology. That are some of my views about green technology and digitalization. I'm looking forward to learn more from you today and looking forward to interesting chats afterwards in the coffee break or later this day. Let's exchange ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Obern. Thank you for highlighting the works of ETS Didactic and especially echoing how important it is to engage roughly 50% of our population in technical education and training so that we can drive sustainability together. We've received, so first of all, one big applause for our speakers. Thank you. We received one question from our audience to Festo Didactic. The question is, the separation in many functions makes it difficult to bring together sustainability and digitalization. What's your approach for an integrated training?
Excellent question. Thank you so much. But first of all, I think that's what we heard throughout the whole day. Very important is training and providing information, opening the mindset to address those topics professionally, whether it's in industry, whether it's in education, whether it's industry trainers, whether it's Tvet trainers, doesn't matter. But I actually explained a bit already. We can use digital solutions in order to work on a sustainable solution. I talked a lot about energy consumption. Digitalization helps us to measure, to visualize, to network whatsoever in order to be more sustainable. What is my energy consumption today? Which process, which machines are consuming more? How can I make a right investment in order to become more sustainable? In-house shop floor, or I mentioned a lot new technologies or new topics upcoming, circular economy. A part of this, of course, is maybe also supply chain, but also recycling. A lot more topics are coming, and we can use digitalization to visualize, to analyze, and also using artificial intelligence to come up with maybe new ideas that we are not even thinking about at the moment. So that's how I would bring them nicely together.
Thank you very much. Would any of our other panelists like to add something onto that?
Yeah, I might add a bit to that. I'd like to address the opposite side of the coin. Volker spoke very eloquently about the digitization or the integration into industry, but there's also digitization into the process of learning. And this is where we talk about using IR 4.0 tools for teaching and learning. That is eminently sustainable for many reasons. But you have to plan for it and you have to embed it into there. As it's been mentioned before, it makes learning scalable. The problem that we have with our traditional method of expanding vocational technical education is the bricks and mortar and equipment approach. Very expensive and very difficult to do. I once had a conversation a few years ago with the Minister of Education of Pakistan. They want to upgrade 1,000 training centers there, and he wanted to know how much would that cost to do and how long would it take. You know, we were talking hundreds of millions, possibly billions of dollars, and it probably would take 40 years to do that. And that's mind-boggling to a minister. It's totally off of his horizon. But if you digitally upgrade these schools, you might be able to do it in 5 years at a fraction of the cost and have an impact that may be even larger than, you know, upgrading all the facilities. The other thing is that with digital learning, it can reduce the amount of time that students need to spend learning, and also in the process of that, make the schools more efficient. So I think in the development process that we've seen in the last 30, 40 years around the world, particularly Southeast Asia, we've built a lot of schools. We actually may have enough schools now if we made them more efficient. We may not need more buildings, actually. We just need to improve the learning process. And if we improve the learning process by providing digital platforms for learning, we might be able to double the capacity of the present schools. And that's more than enough for all the countries that are here. So that is a huge savings economically, in time-wise, and the process of learning. So I think that the digital solution for education is very sustainable from a cost, efficiency, and productivity also as well. Thank you.
Mr. Stephen?
Let me just cover the part on digitalization. When a company do digitalization, you're looking at your processes, trying to streamline it first before you digitize. And I think the good thing about it is that you can basically involve a department and later integrate into other departments, and the whole organization can really look at the processes and digitalization. And I think there were some tough times, but it's a good chance for us to integrate our processes. Some are breakdown. You need to streamline that. Please don't take this thing and then plug it in, and then you think that is digitalization. I think that's the wrong thing to do. Okay. So in fact, many of the projects that we have seen done by our members, even ourselves over at SNAP, is that we actually able to put people together. And the best part of it is that some of this routine, repetitive tasks, error-prone, we are able to remove it in due course. I think that's important. And it'll make people happier, and we can job redesign our people to do enhanced role, and we can pay them better. I think that's important because it's actually a good chance for you to actually bring in digitalization to look at it. And obviously the sustainability is that we are driving towards some of these SDG goals. In fact, when I interviewed the younger generations, they asked me, what is SNAP doing in terms of contribution to society? I just wonder who is interviewing you for the job now. You see? But again, I think these are good things whereby the younger generation starts to think about their responsibility towards the society. Okay.
Just to actually add up on this, if we actually look at the construction industry, people would actually thought that it would just be the builders, the architects, and the engineers. But what I actually learned with the team that I work with for this 3D concrete printing is the team is really integrated with IT engineers, with BIM specialists. It's not just architects, it's not just the designers, it's all integrated. And if we can actually have certain courses that can actually be integrating different fields of students, that would actually be good, because it is all, the future is really all about integration. And I hope that it's something that would actually be open, very openly, especially in the construction industry. People would actually have thought, that's it, we only need the builders, the electrician, those kind of things, but it's not. We're working with mathematicians as well. We're working with IT engineers, but just to let you know, recently we work with economists as well. So it is a really good integration if you really want to come up with a project that is slightly different. And I guess those kind of really rich, in terms of skills background, will make your project quite interesting and how to actually overcome a lot of issues that you'll face. Thanks.
Okay, I would like to ask, add one other aspect. Today we heard a lot about digitalization of learning, but when we have a look to the industry, I think the speed of innovation from the industry will determine in the future also the demand for the skills, how the skills have to be changed, how the capabilities, and also how maybe the future occupations or the future curriculum has to be changed and adopted.
Thank you very much. I think there's not much left for me to say, except thank you very much for these very insightful presentations, your input, your time, and I think I speak for the audience when I say thank you very much. And as we've learned by now, please stay on the stage for your certificates.
Thank you to our discussion 3 panelists. Going forward is the certificate ceremony as a token of appreciation from Simeo Voctec to all esteemed speakers. We are pleased to present a certificate to Dr. Stephen McKee, Mr. Volker Schmidt, Mr. Stephen Yee, Federal Architect City Rosai Marianti, and Mr. Sven Urband. And of course, not forgetting our panel discussion 3 moderator, Mr. Ansgar Schaefer, integrated Tvet expert from Simeo Secretariat, Thailand. Can we gather everyone to please for a group photo? On behalf of Simeo Voctec, we would like to once again thank our panelists for the great presentations on the integrating digitalization and greening in Tvet, which we hope can inspire our audience here on how they can better integrate digitalization and greening of their Tvet practices in their respective home countries and institutions. Following the panel discussion 3 from our esteemed speakers will be the fourth and final panel of presentation. In this fourth session, invited speakers will be sharing on education and training providers' perspective on digitalizing and greening of Tvet, which will be moderated by Dr. Malai Zaiti Sheikh Abdul Hamid, Assistant Professor, Center for Communication, Teaching and Learning from University of Technology Brunei, Brunei Darussalam. May you invite Dr. Malai Zaiti onto the stage together with the final panelist. Dr. Malai, the floor is yours.
Hello and very good afternoon to all. We know that the time is very tight, so we'll try to make this as sweet and short as possible. So, first of all, allow me to introduce today's esteemed speakers. On the floor today, we have the first speaker, who is Professor Vikramasinghe, Director General for Colombo Plan Staff College, Asia Pacific Accreditation and Certification Commission for Philippines. We also have Associate Professor Dr. Jose Hernandez Santos, who's Director, Center for Lifelong Learning, University Brunei Darussalam, and also Associate Professor of Chemistry at the Faculty of Science, University Brunei Darussalam. And the third speaker today is Dr. Dhruv Patel, CEO of Nisai Group, United Kingdom. And I myself, Dr. Zeti, will be the moderator for today's session. So welcome everyone, and welcome to our esteemed speakers. Everyone, give her an applause. So without further ado, let me introduce briefly our first speaker today. So Professor Dharma Vikramasinghe is the first Sri Lankan and the 12th Director General of the Colombo Plan Staff College, appointed by the Government Board with effect from the 1st of September 2021. He is also the President of the Asia Pacific Accreditation and Certification Commission, APACC, the Accreditation and Certification arm of CPSC for Tvet institution. He is also currently Chartered Engineer and also a corporate member of the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka and the Engineering Council Sri Lanka. Professor Vikram has also published over 60 research publications, and he has received 18, ladies and gentlemen, national and international awards, including the Emerald Literary Award in 2018, the President's Award for Scientific Publication 2017, and the NRC Merit Award for Scientific Publications. And the World Education Congress honored him with the award for Outstanding Contribution to Education in Sri Lanka Education Leadership Awards 2018. Congratulations, Prof. Thank you. So, yes, without further ado, let you present your presentation. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So, the final session. So our topic is different to the previous ones. Basically, we are going to present the education and training providers' perspective on greening and digitalizing Tvet. And also, so my one is, you can see it's very specific. So I don't want to go through digitalization and greening Tvet because almost now several panels have gone through that one. So mine, I'll concentrate on this lifelong learning and how micro-credentials use to incorporate this, especially the digitalization and this greening Tvet into Tvet curriculum, etc. So no need to introduce this one because lifelong learning already incorporated in the SDG goal. That is one of the main important goal in that one, SDG 4. So why this lifelong learning is important? Because I'm not undermining the other method of teaching and incorporating this into Tvet sector, this greening and digitalization, and especially for IR skills and all. But why this lifelong learning? Because as I remember Mr. Julian mentioned, so that you can incorporate these skills, digital skills, greening skills, and 4IR skills. As an example, in his model, he mentioned that low-skilled occupation you can incorporate in short-term programs, right? Short-term upskilling, reskilling, etc. And especially like OJT, etc. And then the moderate skilled occupation, so you can go for mid-term into Tvet and skill sector, whereas the high-skilled occupation, long-term upskilling and reskilling, especially for universities and other higher education institutions. So the problem is now, if you go with that model, that's no problem, it's already tested model. But now we have a challenge. What is the challenge? Because 4IR is already there. Greening is already there. These are not for 3 years ahead or future skills that we want. We need that skills now. Right? So you can have long-term strategies, but so that's why this lifelong learning is important. Even for high-skill occupation, as an example, graduates already there. So what you want to you have to do, you have to upskill them, reskill them using this lifelong learning model. So here I'll explain what this one. That's the micro credential is important because you don't want to go through all 4 or 5 years. So then perhaps we won't talk about this 4 years at that time. That may be new era. So because of the time, I'll go through that one without explaining all these. So now, this education, evolution of education and skill pathways, I think there are different namings like 1.0 analog, 2.0 online, and 3.0 platform, and perhaps Mr. Brad and Dr. Steve Nog also mentioned this pedagogy, andragogy, and heutagogy. So different terms. So why this micro-credential important? Because in the 1.0 or 2.0, it may be difficult for us to incorporate this micro-credential, especially in lifelong learning. But now we will be able to do it. You can see all your conceptual developments, fundamental learning, and even experience you can give. We do it actually with the lab tech because almost 1 year now, we identify we have to give this to the Tvet sector, especially start with Tvet teacher training. So as an example, institution like CPSE, we won't be able to develop because this content develop is very expensive, as they mentioned already, and also it takes long time. So then it's outdated. So therefore, we partner with that one, the lab tech, and we already done, I think, more than 15 programs to all our member countries. So those are the strategies. Now, how this, as an example, lifelong learning and micro-credentials coming into that. Some countries, I don't want to mention, actually came up with this. They said, can you give this module, because this is, you can actually see, if you've gone through that one, is self-learning. Students can learn. All simulation there, artificial intelligence there. You can try with, before you go into the lab even, the skill set. So they want to introduce into their curriculum, right, as a stand-alone module. So that we are talking about credentials, micro-credentials. So they add into the curriculum and their competencies. So we are actually dealing with that one. So anyway, it's not new. So you can see now even matching process and even skill signaling. So now it's not certificate. Our time we have paper certificate, our degree qualification and all. But you can incorporate into micro-credentials and you can carry that one forward. Right. So this is what we are talking about. Perhaps I don't want to talk about too much technical. I know the audience is more administrators and Tvet leaders and also Tvet academic administrators. So they know the technology and all. So here, normally what do we do? For, as an example, as Mr. Julian mentioned, this high-skill occupations, we go for macro credentials. So we have very strict bundle modules, 3 years, 4 years. You can't have any other modules because the basket is already there. Unless you complete your 3 years, you won't be able to get a certificate, degree or diploma, etc. So that is the problem because we won't be able to incorporate into that one. So that's why this micro credentials is important, because still you can go into that one, but you can unbundle. You can put into basket, and as an example, especially for short term, you can incorporate into postgraduate certificate or diploma within 6 months, 1 year you can do it. So that's what we want. That's why with this micro credentials is important. I think already Bill gone, no? Okay. Anyway, so with that, so micro credentials, you can see the important thing is now it's not recognized properly, especially for qualifications, and also competencies and qualifications is not incorporated. So the reason, this very actually recent now, these initiatives, but it was there. But now we are talking about unbundling and going for qualifications. So European Commission, you can see 2020, it's actually they are talking about the institutions, trusted body, these are the critical things, and also compliance with agreed upon quality assurance. So that means you have to incorporate into quality assurance systems, etc. I think the one already mentioned that ASEAN already incorporated as a policy, right? But the thing is, how long will it take to implement in our countries, incorporate into the national vocational qualifications and also to curriculum? It will take a long time. So that is the problem we have. Yeah, so why micro-credential for lifelong learning? Because these programs are more accessible. Right? So they don't have to come to universities or Tvet sector institutions to learn. So if we offer that one, they can do it online, or the platforms they have now, actually we don't call online, online, the platforms, and they will be able to complete it and also assess. As an example, the LabTech one, end of the program we assess them, their the competencies before and after that one. So here you can incorporate. So you can give certain credits. Once you add these credits into that one, you will be able to get a certificate. So that is the idea of this micro credentials in lifelong learning. Right? And also now this topic, all the speakers already discussed. How do we incorporate these greening skills, 4IR skills? So these are actually not hardcore. If you really analyze that one, the hardcore is more or less same. Your engineering skills and all. So here we have to give the new innovation and that kind of skills, soft skills and all, lot of things, 21st century skills, right? So those actually we can incorporate and we can improve them to meet these skills. Yeah, so this, as I mentioned you earlier, so this is more easy now because we have the distance learning and assessment. So these micro credentials can be incorporated into your modules now. The simulation already there in even our programs, and like flipped classrooms, gamification already used in LabTech actually models, and even MOOCs already there. Right? So these all, what we have to do, we have to formalize. Right? So the problem is these challenges, academic recognition, because these micro-credential and short-term programs everywhere now, but they are not incorporated into national competencies and qualifications, NCs and NCQs. Right? And also they have not incorporated properly into curriculum to lead into qualifications at the end. So this is the number one, academic recognition, and the other one is quality assurance for micro-credentials. How do you do the quality assurance part? Because otherwise, people will not recognize that, especially the vocational qualification levels. Yeah, the strategies, what we have, these all discussed. ASEAN, I think Ms. Ami, as far as I remember, mentioned that. So ASEAN already incorporated this one, lifelong learning and micro-credentials and greening and all incorporated into it. So it's the member countries now see how you could incorporate, because that is the very important one. Short term, you will be able to give all these required skills for our Tvet sector people. And we have to have partnership. Why? Because sometimes we are talking about skill migration, especially these 4IR skills. Need, as an example, Singapore, already mentioned that ITE. We have been there last month, our regional program, ITE conducted. I think they have always, achieved their targets. So all incorporating 4IR, etc. But other countries, sometimes their 4IR, there is no industry. But we have to focus skill migration. So in that case, we have to have this partnership with the other countries to accept that qualification and the competencies. And teaching and learning process, also we have to change and incorporate into your policy level decisions, already I think gone through the presenters previously. And policies and mechanisms, these are all discussed, and especially student supporting systems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Vikram, and for sharing how micro-credentials can be part of lifelong learning pathways and what strategies also can strengthen lifelong learning integration in Tvet. Now, having heard about that, let's hear from another perspective on education and training providers on greening and digitalization of Tvet from the viewpoints from University Brunei Darussalam. So today we also have the privilege of also introducing another speaker, Dr. Jose Hernandez Santos, also known as Dr. Joey. Now, he is an associate professor of chemistry at Faculty of Science and also the director of UBD Center for Lifelong Learning. He is also has served as the assistant professor of chemistry and worked as a postdoctoral scientist at Dublin City University in Ireland and at the National Institute for Advanced Industrial Science and Technology in Japan. He joined UBD, or University Brunei Darussalam, in 2004 as a senior lecturer and is currently an associate academic administrator. Now, he's currently serving as the director of the Center for Lifelong Learning, C3L, which provide lifelong learning opportunities to Bruneians. And he previously was Director of Studies, Director of Research, Deputy Director of Planning and Development, Deputy Dean of Science, Chemistry Program Leader, and Head of Teaching and Learning. So without further ado, Dr. Joe, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zedi. Actually, my name is Jose, not Jose. Right. But please call me Joey. And since we don't have the luxury of time, I'm going to stick to my script. All right, so I am from the University Brunei Darussalam, and I'm currently serving as the Director of Center for Lifelong Learning. So in this afternoon's panel discussion, I wish to share some viewpoints from UBD. So the point to ponder given to us is this. In the era of digitalization, occupations change quickly, and new occupations are emerging that require new sets of skills. This has affected the way education and training providers offer education and training services, including the introduction of micro-credentials. What do you think, and how has your institution responded to the emergence of micro-credentials? I'd like to start by sharing the results of the recently announced Times Higher Education World University Rankings. Of particular interest would be the positions of the universities in Southeast Asia, because many of us are aware that rankings are dominated by universities in America and Europe, and Asian giants like China, Japan, Hong Kong, and Korea. So I have summarized here the top 5. I don't have enough space, so I just put top 5 in the ASEAN. As you can see, UBD is now ranked number 3 in ASEAN, next to NUS and NTU in Singapore. What is the relevance of this to my presentation? Well, back in 2004, when I first joined UBD, the university was unknown. If ever we were ranked, these were low-profile ranking exercises, and our ranks were in the 5 to 10,000th among world universities. As I look back, I can confidently say that UBD has been very responsive to the emerging demands of teaching and learning. We did not maintain the status quo. And if I were to give 2 words to describe what brought us to where we are now, I would say it's adaptability and flexibility. If you Google, adaptability is the quality of being able to adjust to new conditions or the capacity to be modified for a new use or purpose, while flexibility is the ability to be easily modified and the willingness to change or compromise. And to support Tvet, universities should be both adaptable and flexible. UBD was established in 1985. We were a typical state university offering traditional programs to our students. Around 2008-2009, we introduced the Gen X program, which allowed our students to leave the university in their third year and spend 2 semesters outside UBD doing study abroad, internships, community service or outreach programs, innovation or incubation projects. In 2017, we started engaging in what we call lifelong learning to provide training and education to those who cannot afford to join our mainstream Gen X programs. UBD is a self-accrediting institution that makes and upholds its own policies, procedures, and standards with respect to admission, certification, and recognition of qualifications. So let me share with you UBD's take on lifelong learning, which mainly revolves around granting micro-credentials and definitely cover Tvet. Our lifelong learning clientele consists of the general population with no degree. These are for upskilling. People with degrees or some form of degree for reskilling. Career changers, people who don't want a degree, they just want skills relevant to their job. The third age or the retired personnel, and individuals interested in learning for the sake of learning. Currently, we offer foundation courses for those who did not qualify for our mainstream bachelorate program. We have a diploma in education, a 14-week short courses which are part of the Bachelor of Science in Digital Economy. We also offer Master of Government, as well as PhD in lifelong learning by research. Although our classes are held online or outside working hours, at night or weekends, the courses or modules are offered on semestral basis. However, to provide students with maximum flexibility, we are working on offering them independent of semestral cycles, but on more strategic time frames where more students can join and they can finish without waiting for 14 weeks or the whole semester. We are also transitioning to convert most, if not all, of our courses to micro-credentials so our students can receive right away the recognition in the form of digital badges for the specific skills and knowledge that they have acquired from taking these courses. These micro-credentials are standalone credentials which they can take without entering into any program. They are also stackable, meaning to say these micro-credentials can be collected together to satisfy the requirements for any particular program, such as micro-bachelor, bachelor's, micro-master, and master degree programs. You're probably wondering, what are these micro-programs? The micro-bachelor is actually equivalent to Brunei Darussalam Qualification Framework Level 5, and this is the same level as the Higher National Diploma in Brunei. On the other hand, micro-master is equivalent to BDQF Level 7, and same level as advanced or graduate diploma, also in Brunei. Credit transfer, this is important, credit transfer from work experience and certificated prior learning can also be stacked together with micro-credentials to satisfy the program requirements. One of the motivations for offering micro-credentials and lifelong learning programs is the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Everyone is talking about it. SDG 4 is the education goal, and it aims to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities to all. To maximize accessibility, we are embracing a more flexible system. In terms of admission, any adult 18 years and above who is willing to learn may be admitted to take one or more of the micro-credentials. In general, there are no qualification requirements prescribed to register for modules. It strictly depends on the candidate's ability to learn the necessary materials and perform at the required level of competence to pass these modules. We only impose entry requirements if they wish to enter a program. And the entries are not limited to academic qualifications because they can also use their work experience or prior learning to enter. Another flexibility that we offer is that we can admit students any time of the year, and once admitted, they can take any course or module at any time they want for life. Our modules are also offered independent of semesters, and they can be offered with a flexible duration of days to months. In terms of delivery, they're also flexible with combinations of online, blended, face-to-face, hybrid, and so on. We are systematically incorporating the use of available technology in our modules, particularly the implementation of learning management systems such as Canvas and Microsoft Teams. We are also exploring ways to integrate blockchain technology in granting digital badges to our students and provide verifiable micro-credential recognitions. So this is the summary of what UBD is offering to Bruneians and, of course, international students. Depending on student situations, educational background, work experience, training, or lack of them, we always have something to offer. They can take any available modules to earn micro-credentials, which can be recognized right away, and at the same time, they're being given a chance to stack them together to earn higher-level qualifications, such as micro-bachelor, bachelor, micro-master, and master degrees. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jerry. Very, very interesting in how UBD is offering that pathway. So again, a reminder, any of you would like to ask questions, please scan the link to send your question to slido.com. Right, and we have the third and last speaker for today. Let me introduce to you Dr. Dhruv Patel. He is the Chief Executive and founder of the NISAI Group. It is an organization dedicated to providing education to students around the world. Now, for over 25 years, NISAI Learning has utilized online and virtual technology as an effective and innovative way of making education accessible to those in and out of school. Now, in recent years, his involvement with UNESCO Institute for Information Technologies in Education, IIITE, has provided him with a platform to increase awareness of how quality, assured, accessible education to learners through the use of technology and qualified teaching staff, and thereby helping to achieve SDG 2030. He was also recognized as a fellow doctor of the Royal Institute of Education by the Royal Institute of Singapore, and is also listed in the Financial Times top 100 Black, ASEAN and Minority Ethnic BAME leaders in technology. He's been invited to speak at a number of conferences in the ASEAN region on 21st century and inclusive learning. And also, perhaps also lastly, he has achieved a lot of high levels of engagement and good academic results. And without further ado, you have the floor, Doctor.
Thank you so much. First of all, I must thank my fellow panelists for an amazing lifelong learning. I always felt education stops, but life learning never stops to your last breath. And I think that what you guys put together was the starting of something which I really passionately believe in. So what I'm going to talk about today is, first of all, is about development of English literacy and the 21st century skills within our Tvet arena. And I'm very, very happy that we have finally managed to get our relationship with Simeo Walktech in the launching of the foundation skills for the region. So let me, and I won't keep you, I'll keep it to my 8 minutes. Okay. So I just want to give you a bit of background on us, how we're going to improve English skills, technical vocational education training in English in that one. Developing the 4 C's, which is very important in the Tvet arena. We will need more and more of that. And how to ensure sustainable and resilient Tibet system. The importance of recognition and certification is very important. And one of the things which has really, really impressed me today was looking at the micro-credentials. For so long, we have not mentioned that word, and it's great to see that happening today. Okay. So just a little bit, 1996, my gray hair tells me that I've spent a lot of time on online learning, and that's when I founded it. We have governors who are external for over 120 years of experience in the education sector, right from primary all the way to further education, so we cover quite a breadth of that. We are an international Cambridge school, which is where it is, but we are more important in developing skills and competencies in addition to knowledge. I think that's the critical, is competencies. Focus on inclusivity. Inclusivity is a big agenda for me, and the pathways to provide improvement in impact and outcomes. For me, inclusivity is not about just disabilities, but it's also about getting marginalized and unmarginalized groups together. We are in partnership with CIMIO and UNESCO IIT and other countries, and also we have delivered over 2.3 million hours of live learning for students around the world. So in UK, we work with government, we work with local authorities, we work with schools. And this is basically to provide the inclusive agenda for those children who do not come to school for whatever reason. Internationally, over the last 3-4 years, we have grown very rapidly. In the Asia region, we started with 7 staff. We got over 67 staff in the region. I'm proud to say that our teaching center is based out of Brunei, which is fantastic, and it is one of the best kept secrets we have. And the other center, which is our Customer and Student Services Center, is based out of Hanoi. And our sales support system operation is based out of Kuala Lumpur. So we are a truly Asian organization. We are also represented in Central Asia and Eastern Europe, but more importantly, also we are now in 10 French African countries as well. Our newest one has been Canada, and we are working in Canada, and I'll explain how that comes along and how it will help our Tvet agenda. Okay, one of the things when I was going around this area for the last 7-8 years is English is taught as a subject, not as a language. And that has a lot of implications on how we handle the subject of English. Okay, so I won't go through all of that, but a lot of people speak English. English is necessary for the ASEAN has the language of trade and mobility is English. So we now need to look at how we're going to make that happen into things. One of the problems we have also in the region is the mother tongue literacy and mother tongue numeracy. So we are starting with a very, very low skills level to improve that level where we want to get to. Okay. One of the things is we need to make sure our young people have got that ability to be mobile and get out and work within the regions as much as they can. So what we have created is what we call, with CIMIO WalkTech, is our N-Health program, which is NISA Holistic English Language Proficiency Program. It's a blended learning comprising of live teacher training, teacher-trainer-led lessons, use of appropriate resources like UNICEF Sound. The UNICEF Sound will allow us to provide, teaches them how to speak, listen, read, and more importantly, pronunciation. Gives them that. It's not age-based, you can go anywhere. Our newest acquisition, which is the Skillsoft, which is WordQ, brings in the reading ability, but you can have different vocations on it. So we can constrain and contract the amount of time it needs to get the proficiency of language, which we need to be having. Also, we need to look at the 21st century skills to support Tibet. Creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, communications. Again, we have coming to the language, the skills which we need, the soft skills which we need. If we don't have that, the contextualization of English in workplace, improving English in urban areas, not only in, in rural areas, not only in urban areas. We need to get that ecosystem out there. Project-based learning, very, very critical. We saw the people talking about project-based learning today. You know, role-based, it has to be important because that's where you get your criticality. That's where you get your thinking. That's where you get your communication skills. And also you get your collaboration skills. In order to make sure we are bringing that sustainable system and is resilient, we need to have the global market requires a language, a global language. And that's, unfortunately, is English. English in a contextualized way. We do not need to teach people how to read Macbeth or Guy Fawkes, or, you know, we need to know how to do certain tasks. And that's something which we need to do on the vocational side. And then people will learn from it and they'll improve their language skills. The one thing we've been doing is we're not only teaching English, we're also teaching numeracy. By having English and maths together, it improves the contextual. right? So it's very important to that. Upskilling existing staff, very important. We've been working in Vietnam for vocational teaching centers, and we're doing that right now as much. Competencies in soft skills, very critical, very, very important to have the soft skills. School system does not have the soft skills, but we have to have the students coming out with soft skills. Importance of recognition and certification. I cannot emphasize enough, we must have currency-based certification. It has to be robust. It has to be something which people can believe in it rather than just a certificate. It has to have value. Because we are dealing with people's lives, it has to have something there. So we have, with Institute of Productivity, which is another one which we work very closely, we have created with our partners NOCN various different certification which goes through a lot of robust quality assurance as well. Okay, that's me done. Got it in time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for very, very short and sweet. Now, we would like to go on with the next two questions, rather. The first one, can I pose this to perhaps any of the panelists today? What would be the greatest challenge for education providers to provide digitalizing and greening in their teaching practices or curricula? Can I pass it to any who would like to start first? Shall I invite to go first? Yes, our first speaker panelist, please. Professor, yeah. Okay. Professor Vikram.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, greening actually, it's not new because there are a lot of initiatives even before, like cleaner production, and it's more or less same, only the terminology, vary. These SDG goals already incorporated into most of the curriculum. Right now, even energy sector like solar energy and all now incorporated into engineering and Tvet technology programs. So there's no, real difficulty, challenge incorporating. One issue is actually the hands-on experience, because theory part already there. So they incorporate in that one, but the practical and especially equipments are very, very expensive. So even I know in my university, I was the vice chancellor there, Tvet University. It's very difficult to get funding for developing laboratories for this kind of thing. So what I did actually, we got, as an example, full air conditioning systems with new greening technology. Daikin, India actually supported. And they gave free of charge. We imported equipments all from there. So I think during these sessions, everyone highlighted the importance of industry collaboration, partnership with industry. So what we say, so all these students, they will be with us, all these training providers, whether it's a college or a university, they will be here 1, 2, or maximum 3, 4 years. The rest of the life, they will be there. So if we give all these skills, so then it's very easy for the employee actually to, no need to retrain, and it will not cost. So the best option is actually give that one to the university. It's win-win. So that's why even all the new air conditioned HVAC technology we got, and also we got solar panels, all funded by the industry. They have given, and a lot of even the UNDP actually supported incorporating this cleaner production and the greening, that one. And even staff development, we got European Union funding. So there are a lot of opportunities available, challenges there. But the thing is, as leaders, we have to look into those, even digitalization. So I know it's very recent. Now, even our time, we tried our best actually to get like simulation, etc. About 10 years ago, I tried with World Bank funding. But that time, I failed because it's very difficult to combine this IT knowledge and the technology there. People don't understand. But now we do. We partner with content developers, digital. As an example, one already mentioned, LabTech and Bentley Education. So they actually train. We have already trained Tvet teachers. So challenges there, but I think the important part is the leaders, we have to see the opportunities. There are a lot of opportunities there. Only option is we have to work with industry. win-win situation, because end of the day, it's actually branding them. So, and also if you use that technology, automatically the students also aware that one. So they also prefer to work with that one because they are aware. So when that technology is there in the industry, they go and directly they can do that one. So therefore, we actually work with the industry. A lot of these new technologies we got through partners rather than government. You know, if you wait for government, because most of the Tibet in ASEAN as well as Asia are public.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor. So you mentioned about industry collaboration, very important as in funding. So thank you for sharing. Now can I pass to perhaps Dr. Joey to continue?
Right, thanks. Actually, when I was preparing my script, this is the very first thing that hit me, the challenges that we face as far as digitizing and greening of the Tvet is concerned. Because from the point of view of university, we are actually academic in nature. Everything that we do is mainly academics. Our curriculum are, the standardized curricular programs. So one challenge that we have is the expertise. We actually do not have expertise for this digitizing and greening these micro-credentials. So I think the solution there is we can actually collaborate and partner with industry, with Tvet providers, and so we can have a win-win situation because you can take advantage of the inherent nature of universities to be self-accrediting. And so we can actually leverage on that, and so as a result, it's going to be a win-win situation. So thank you.
Thank you again also, Doctor. So you also mentioned industry, very important. Dr. Dhruv, what about your viewpoint? Would you like to share?
Right. So I might be a little bit controversial, but it's the last session.
Sure.
I think we have quite a few challenges because our education system is very silo-driven. It should be cross-curriculum, first of all, right? We come in and we do in the region, our teachers are trained to teach from the books. We need to rethink about how we train them teachers, right? Because when you create books, it costs, there's problems, issues there. We have a lot of resources on the web, which could be used effectively. Our teachers need to be trained how to use that, right? I think the other areas is things like SDG 2030. It's great, 17 objectives. All the common goal in that is the education. We could use every one of those and map it to the local and current curriculums, right? And when we get people work ready, we don't tell them that you're going to spend half an hour doing maths, half an hour doing it. Work ready means you're doing cross-curricular. You're going to do the whole thing. So I think it's something which we need to recalibrate in our education systems to see how that can be brought along. In my organization, we don't use books. We use them if they want to be referred to. Our teachers are trained to take a specification and work through cross-curriculum and bring SDGs 2030 into it. So it is about getting that and engagement. And we talk about the learning journey and how do you get that learning journey onwards. It's about that. It's not about getting certificates at the end of the day, how many GCSE stars you got. It's about getting them ready for the next generation.
Very interesting, to share. So it's not just beyond qualifications, although we now have the option of micro-credentials as well. So I think it's fascinating. Thank you for sharing. Do we have a last question? Okay, that's the last question for today. All right, so without further ado, thank you very much to our panelists today. Thank you so much. Can I say thank you, big everyone, to our speakers today for doing such a fabulous job. So thank you so much. With that, we end our session, and we hope to see you again in the future. Thank you so much to our panelists.
Can we kindly request for our last moderator and panelists to remain on the stage? Yes, please. We would now like to proceed with the presentation of the certificate ceremony as a token of appreciation from CMU Voctec to all our valued speakers. We are pleased to present the certificate to Professor Wickramasinghe. Associate Professor Dr. Jose Hernandez Santos. Dr. Dhruv Patel. And to our panel 4 moderator, Dr. Malai Zeti Sheikh Abdul Hamid, Assistant Professor, Center for Communication, Teaching and Learning from University of Technology, Brunei, Brunei Darussalam. Simeo Voctec would like to once again thank our industry representatives who have shared very useful and valuable education and training providers' perspective on digitalizing and greening of Tvet. We are confident with the great knowledge and information shared, the audience will be able to take away these insights and put into great use to further develop their greening practices in their respective institutions. With the end of the 4th panel presentations, we are now delighted to invite Dr. Pariono, Deputy Director of Professional Affairs and Research Specialist from Simeo Voctec to deliver the conference resolution. Please welcome.
I'm a bit short, so you can see me. Yeah. Okay, very good afternoon, everyone. No, already evening, in fact, now. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone. Until 6 o'clock, you're still here and patiently listening to, okay, thank you very much. Yes, I'm 10 centimeters taller now. Yes, very good. So again, thank you for your contributions in terms of the deliveries as well as a lot of interesting questions. And now I think this is a kind of something to take away because when you attend a conference with a lot of information, sometimes too much to digest. And sometimes also for policymakers, it's easier if we have kind of short version, which is the resolution that we have distributed and receive input from everyone. Not almost everyone, but I think almost everyone providing the input. So this resolution belongs to us, and I think I could see representative from government are still here, representative from Tvet providers are here, as well as from private sectors. So I think we still have complete that can represent this resolutions. So Bangkok resolutions on digitalizing and greening Tvet for sustainable development. Just read it very quickly. Preamble, this international conference on digitalizing and greening Tvet for sustainable development organized by Simeo Voctec Regional Center for Technical and Vocational Education and Training in collaboration with the Office of Vocational Education Commission Thailand with the support of GIZ Rico Tvet and private sectors was held in Bangkok, Thailand on the 27th October 2022. The conference was participated by 130 delegates. This is the one who present here, but also some YouTube I did not count because involved in the development of this resolution. So representing the Simeo Voctec governing board members, Tvet leaders and practitioners from the 11 Simeo member countries, namely Brunei Darussalam, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos PDR, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Timor-Leste, and Vietnam. And then also Tvet experts from international organizations, including Simeo centers, UNESCO Univoc centers, ILO, CPSC, GIZ Rico Tvet, and RAFTE, and from Tvet institutions, including university in Southeast Asia and beyond, such as from Germany and also Hong Kong, Public Republic of China, and also from industries. Noting the rapid change of technology and workforce requirements due to digitalizations, and at the same time also facing environmental issues as apparent in climate change, that education and training must respond to by providing relevant competency-based training for our graduates and lifelong learners. Recognizing regional initiative under ASEAN geared towards digitalizations and industrial revolutions as reflected in the ASEAN Declarations of Industrial Transformations to Industry 4.0 in 2019, ASEAN Digital Master Plan 2021-2025, ASEAN Digital Integration Framework Action Plan 2019-25, ASEAN Agreement on Electronic Commerce 2019, ASEAN ICT Master Plan 2020, and then also a master plan on ASEAN Connectivity 2025, the consolidated strategy on the fourth industrial revolution for ASEAN 2021, ASEAN declarations on the HRD for the changing world of work 2021, ASEAN leaders' statements advancing digital transformations in ASEAN 2021, and declarations on the digital transformation of education system in ASEAN. This, you can see this is still new, which will be adopted at the 40th and the 41st ASEAN Summit in November 2022. So you are the one who received the first declaration on this, and knowing that in line with digitalization. And the regional and global initiative related to green jobs, green Tvet, and sustainable development, as reflected in the ASEAN declarations on promoting green jobs for equity and inclusive growth for ASEAN community in 2018, the Paris Agreement on Climate Change 2015, the ILO guidelines for just transition toward environmentally sustainable economies and societies for all, and also green jobs in the 102nd International Labour Conference 2013, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 8 on the decent work and economic growth, and referring to the decisions on the future we want of the United Nations at the Rio +20 Earth Summit in 2012. Recalling on the keynote recommendations for digitalization in Tibet that call for redesigning of the occupational profile for matching the requirements of digitalizations and greening at the place of work. Secondly, designing training programs which meet the requirements of digitalization in work and green jobs. Thirdly, upgrading teaching and management staff in Tibet, ensuring that the imparted digital and green qualifications as a fractions of the changes in the multidimensional labor market requirements. And the fifth is the actively engaging private sectors in the Tibet development. Referring to the conference recommendation for greening Tibet that call for comprehensive and coordinated approaches and a practical guideline for incorporating greening Tibet into skills, competency standards, curricula, training, and assessment. Therefore, resolve on synergizing efforts to prepare Tibet graduate and lifelong learners with digital and green competencies. First, to urge government to continue with plans towards comprehensive policy in addressing education for sustainable development, or ESD, through digitalizing and greening Tibet, accompanied by allocating financial and expertise support. Second, to call on Tibet providers to prepare Tibet graduates and lifelong learners with digital competencies as a green mindset, green skills by integrating the concept of ESD into Tibet curricula, teaching, learning, and assessment. Tibet providers are encouraged to collaborate and to adopt ESD pedagogy to adoptions of the project-based, problem-based, or combination of the two is also recommended. To encourage the private sector to work together with the government and Tibet providers in addressing sustainable development issues by participating in the policy development and providing input in the curriculum development, support in the teaching, learning process, learning ecosystem, and play more roles in the assessment and certifications. Number 4 is to urge the development agencies to collaborate with the government, Tibet providers, and private sector in addressing sustainable development issues by participating in the policy development and contributing to the enhancement of Tibet curriculum, teaching, learning, assessment, and certifications, including mutual recognition of skills and graduate placement. Number 5, to encourage all Tibet stakeholders to work together to enhance the quality of Tibet personnel, particularly on the competencies in digitalizing and greening Tibet through pre-service and in-service education and training programs. Number 6, to learn from the innovative policies and practices in the areas of digitalizing and greening Tibet. Number 7, to assure successful implementations of digitalization of greening Tibet, it requires strategic partnerships and resource mobilization for sustainable financing for digitalizing and greening Tibet. Number 8, at the institutional level, it is necessary to create an environment to embrace sustainable aspects of to provide student support systems and services. Number 9, to assure inclusivity. The integration of digital and green skills should not only be focused on the formal Tvet, but also on the non-formal and informal Tvet through the reskilling and upskilling programs. To create a learning environment for digital and green skills to thrive, it is recommended to optimize the utilizations of technologies such as AI, AR, MR, and also XR, and also IoT, cyber physical systems, network units in the learning, teaching, learning, assessment, and certifications. Number 11, to have inclusive Tvet and to facilitate lifelong learning efforts must be exerted through recognition of prior learning and micro-credentialing, as these can be important tools to the right-sized learning programs for greater agility, flexibility, and diversity. It is worth considering distant learning and assessment, also simulations, flipped classroom, gamification, open educations, and personalizations. Number 12, to emphasize the importance of the 21st century skills, such as by strengthening functional literacy programs, including basic digital and core skills, basic green skills, social emotional skills, and cognitive skills in Tvet in collaboration with context-specific, with broad competencies to keep pace with digital development and addressing environmental issues. That is on the skill side. Now on the job and economy side. So on the synergizing efforts to create digital and green economy and jobs. Number 13 is to call on Tvet stakeholders in Southeast Asia and beyond to contribute significantly to sustainable development in which economic, socio-cultural, and environmental sustainability can be assured. The 3 pillars of education for sustainable development, economic, socio-cultural, and environmental, must be considered simultaneously. Number 14, to call on the Tvet stakeholders to work collaboratively across different ministries. Public, private, and tripartite partnerships, government, Tvet providers, industry, to create an environment conducive for green economy and green jobs to proliferate that eventually will contribute to higher impact on sustainable development. We pledge continued commitment to digitalizing and greening Tvet for sustainable development in Southeast Asia and beyond. This pledge was made in Bangkok, Thailand, on the 27th of October 2022, signed by everyone. That's our commitment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Payono, for encapsulating the content and essence of today's conference. The conference resolution marks the end of Simeo Voctec International Conference. On behalf of Simeo Voctec, we would like to once again express and mention our highest appreciation to our guest of honor, Dr. Pichat, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, Thailand, Mr. Alias, our Center Director, Simeo Voctec, Dr. Kamalaswaran Jayaraja, who is present on behalf of Simeo Secretariat Director, Dr. Ethel, Simeo Voctec Deputy Directors, Center Directors, our honorable keynote speakers, Ms. Sirpon Pavikam as a representative from GIZ Rico Tvet. Our Center Director would like to have a speech first.
Okay. Our distinguished keynote speakers, panelists, moderators, guests, and participants, once again, warm afternoon greetings to all of you. It's already evening. This conference has reached a common call towards the need for synergy amongst all Tvet parties and stakeholders present here, that is to prepare Tvet graduates with digital and green competencies and create a digital and green economy and jobs. I sincerely hope that this conference has been fruitful and that the information shared and insights drawn will give inspiration to all in responding and carrying a flexible strategic mindset toward the achievement of digitalized and green Tibet for the sustainable development of the Southeast Asian region and beyond. At this juncture, please allow me to express my sincerest and utmost appreciation to these very important people and organizations without whom Semiobotics 33rd Governing Board meeting and international conference would not have been made possible. My utmost appreciation goes to the Ministry of Education Thailand, Semio Secretariat, and the governing members, and all Semiobotics governing members for having blessed the opening ceremony of this conference this morning. I'm also most grateful to our distinguished keynote speakers, experts, panelists, and moderators for their invaluable information and deep insight. To the Kingdom of Thailand, its Office of Vocational Education Commission (OVEC), and its competent and supportive staff, particularly to Mr. Lasasak and his amazing team from the UTT network and institutions. Thank you so much for your generous and kind support in co-hosting Semiobotics 33rd Governing Board meeting and this international conference on digitalizing and greening of Tibet for sustainable development. My sincere gratitude also goes to all our partners and collaborators, Ministry of Education Budan Darussalam, Semio Secretariat, GIZ Tvet, LabTech International, NISA UK, and FESTO. Not forgetting, I'm sincerely appreciative of the commitment and untiring support and cooperation of all members of Semiobotics management and staff. Semiobotics success is because all of you, and let me say thank you, Kapkonkam, and for together we excel. Enjoy the rest of the day and have a safe travel back home. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Center Director. My apologies. And once again, on behalf of Semio Voctec, we would like to express and mention our highest appreciation to Deputy Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, Thailand, our Semio Secretariat Director Representative, Dr. Kamalesh Waran Jayaraja, again, our GIZ Recruitive representatives, CEO of NISA, Dr. Dhruv Patel, our governing board members of Semio Voctec, High Commissioners, Ambassadors, and representatives from associate member and affiliate members, representative of the ministry, Semio, we would like to express our thanks. Your presence and support to Semio Voctec International Conference on Digitalizing and Greening of Tvet for Sustainable Development have immensely contributed for its success. That is all from Semio Voctec and the Governing Board Secretariat on behalf of Semio Voctec. It has been a great pleasure to host the event together in collaboration from the Office of the Vocational Education Commission Thailand with incredible support of Semio Secretariat and GIZ Rico Tvet. We look forward to greeting and sharing you with more informative and innovative ideas that will help in the betterment of Tvet developments in the region with insights from our valued speakers and country representatives from the region and beyond. With that, we close the Semio Voctec International Conference on Digitalizing and Greening of Tvet for Sustainable Development. Thank you, everyone. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Khop khun ka. An announcement to our conference participants, please scan the QR code as seen on screen for the evaluation form. This evaluation form must be completed in order to receive your certificate of participation in today's conference. Once again, please scan the QR code. A certificate of participation will be issued to the participants once the evaluation form has been completed. We appreciate your cooperation and feedback. For the participants, our dinner will be your transportation for your appreciation dinner will be in 10 minutes' time. We'll be here in 10 minutes' time. We'll wait for you then. It will leave in 10 minutes sharp. Tomorrow's industry visit the transportation will leave at 9 a.m. For tomorrow's industrial visit will be at 9 a.m. I'm sorry. And then tonight's dinner's transportation will be in 10 minutes.